Hello and welcome to another episode of the Winging It podcast with myself, Nigel. As usual, I've got two people from the Last Lap magazine website. Yeah, shout out to them, Freddie Coates and Adam Dickinson. Of course, we're going to be talking about the British Grand Prix. It's Silverstone this week, the first of two Silverstone races. But first, we're going to be discussing the new calendar news which came out at the end of last week. Formula One has announced 3 new and returning races with the Nurburgring back on the calendar, as well as Portimao and Imola. So, Adam, what are your thoughts on having those 3 circuits added to the schedule?
Yeah, I mean, it's good. It's just good to have racing on, really. I'm not convinced many of them will provide great races in terms of quality of racing and overtakes and all of that. But, it's good to have them on. It will be very interesting to see how the cars go round and what sort of races they do throw up. And I think I heard that the race at the Nurburgring will be right in the rainiest time in the area in Germany. So there'll be that to look forward to. I'm excited that there'll be more races on. Interesting to see kind of how it does go.
Yeah, we've got Nurburgring on the 11th of October, Portimao on the 25th, and then Imola on the 1st of November, which we all know Freddie is very excited about because he used to have a cat named after Imola. Incredible.
Yes, we had. I was raised with a family cat called Imola. She was older than me, so you can't blame me for that. But it's great. It gives you a reason as to where my Formula One fandom can come from. And also the Schumacher. I'm really excited. I just love tracks. I love the race tracks. We've got Portimao, which is a cool track. Imola, which is a cool track, and they changed the layout. It's just one long straight now around the pits as well. That's cool. Mugello is going to be really cool. I've watched some bike racing there, and it's going to be completely different to that. And if they're allowed to get some fans into Imola, then that would be brilliant, I think. I don't know what the Portuguese fans are like. They're probably quite good. But we don't have a Portuguese driver. So we've got Ferrari.
I think the key thing is kind of excitement. Like, there wasn't much excitement over, like, Hanoi, for example. It's not like, oh, yeah, we're having a race in Hanoi. That's great. But there does seem to be a lot of genuine excitement from a lot of fans about this and these tracks being added in and seeing, it's nostalgia and a lot of people like that, but it does. Yeah, it seems a lot of people seem to be happy with it, and the majority of reaction I've seen has been positive.
It's weird because I remember a few years ago, people were saying, "Oh, there's too many flyaway races," and now we've got 12 European races this season, and then we'll probably have Bahrain and Abu Dhabi on the end of the calendar. We're not sure what's going to happen after Imola. There's talk that Malaysia might be back, and I know, Adam, you're a big fan of the Sepang circuit.
Yeah, it's great. It always threw up good races, always threw up rain. Although I don't know enough about the Malaysian weather cycle, but if it's at the other end of the year than normal, I don't know whether that will change anything or not. But yeah, if that comes back, I'd be very excited. And I feel like that could maybe have the best chance of staying. I mean, I don't know. It's quite early to be getting into that before we've seen the races, but if that, I feel like that's probably got the best chance of throwing up a good race and could have a decent chance of staying, hopefully.
Yeah, and Freddie, do you think that the new races that we're seeing this year, will they stay on the calendars in the future, or are they just one-off events for this year, do you think?
I mean, the fanboy wants them to stay. You want as much as you can. And Liberty's plans was to have 25 Super Bowls, wasn't it, when they came in around 2017. And to bring in, essentially, they brought in 4 tracks that weren't originally on the calendar for this year. And that would have, given them more than enough choice. There's definitely people wanting to hold the races if they can at presumably a lower price to the original promoter. I think as Adam says, Sepang would be the most likely to stay if it does get picked up, because that is it's an international circuit in its own right. I think what's hampering Mugello and Imola is Monza. What's hampering Nurburgring is Hockenheim, unless they go back to their biannual deal. Is that the right? I don't know.
Yeah, that's right.
And I think that, that's all I think really. I have heard some rumours about Istanbul.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's interesting.
Well, I've heard two sides of that. I've heard one side of it, which was that it apparently now is a used car dealership, and the other side of it, which is in talks to hold a Grand Prix. So I'm not convinced yet.
Yeah,
that'll be very interesting.
Been an incredible calendar.
Yeah, I mean, there's talk of Vietnam still happening in November, even though they're meant to hold a race next April. So I don't know if they would have enough time because it's a street circuit.
The noises that came out of their promoters in about June was that they didn't want to hold a race that late because it would impact on the potential of a race in April. But if we don't know the situation for fans at that race because it's not been confirmed, but if there was even a double header there with no fans, then that could promote interest for April. And it just depends on how they look at it from that perspective. And I don't know. It seems to be a bit like, I think Hanoi would be a weird one to do as a double header with it being a street circuit. You can't really close off a city for 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, are we a fan of having two races back to back on consecutive weekends? Is that something we'd like to see more of, or not really? Adam?
Do you mean at the same circuit?
Yeah, so Silverstone, for example, is going to have two.
Yeah. Sorry, but yeah, if the circuit's good, I think not many people lining up for back-to-back Russian Grand Prix. But yeah, if the circuit's good, which I think Austria and Silverstone are two of probably the two best that they could have picked, or certainly two of the best from this calendar that they could have picked. So yeah, in those cases it works. But I think if we're looking at, them having 25 races and, if we count all of the circuits that have hosted or are due to host one this year and the one that's got cancelled, that's already 26. So I don't think kind of filling the calendar up with double headers when we could have races in different places. I think I'd rather have 25 races in 25 different places.
I think what they will take from the double headers this year is that it will give them even more of an argument to say, well, it doesn't matter if we have a race on Saturday and a race on Sunday. The races are different.
Yeah, I think for me, if we're going to have double headers, they should be on the same weekend. And I know people will say, oh, that takes away the meaning or the quality maybe of having just the one race on Sunday. But I think having two races at the same venue over 8 or 9 days is just a bit... I don't know, it doesn't feel right to me. What's the point of staying in the same place for 8 to 9 days when you can just get it over and done within 2 or 3 days? I think those are my...
What's so sacred about doing a race on a Sunday?
Yeah.
Saturday's still the weekend, I guess. Monday night F1. Do that.
Do you guys think any of the new circuits or new on the calendar circuits will provide a better race than the Hungarian Grand Prix that we witnessed last? Because I kind of looking at what people are saying about the quality of actual racing and overtaking on the circuit, it feels like we could be in for a Hungary type race where it's a bit of a procession. So yeah, what do you think on that?
It's tough to say really, because we haven't raced at these circuits for a long time. Formula 1 has never raced at Portimao. Looking at the layouts, I would say Imola, there's a lot of talk about it. Oh, you can't really overtake. But the longest straight, on the start, finish straight. Yeah, that makes sense. That is really long, and that should be DRS zone. But other than that, the circuit is quite tight. Mugello is kind of similar. It's got a long front straight, so there might be one overtaking opportunity there. Portimao, we don't know how F1 cars are going to go. And the Nurburgring, I'm actually a big fan of. I prefer the Nurburgring over Hockenheim, really. But that from what I've seen in previous years, anyway. But I think they could be similar to Hungary, because Hungary you can overtake into turn 1, then into turn 2, so they could be quite similar to what we've seen already. But being in October, the weather will be much colder, which is going to make a massive difference to the teams and the drivers and the cars. So I think that's a big part that's a big area that could play an important part. So I think, looking at the track layout, it could be similar, but again, it depends on the weather and big things like that.
Yeah.
I think Mugello is going to be an interesting one for this, because the layout of the last and first corners, the last corner is a long left-hander, which is going to just set it up for dirty air into the long straight. And then it's the long straight, and then it's a medium speed, third or fourth gear, turn 1. And it's not exactly, it's quite, I mean, like you get Suzuka with turn 1 where they do the overtakes there, and you've got to line it up in a specific way, and then the car will have to sort of hang it around and pedal to the metal, balls to the wall to actually get the move done. And you do see quite a few moves there, and I think it will be similar to that in Mugello and in Portimao, because Portimao, I think the layout they are doing is going to be kind of like a bit of a swish from turn 1 down the hill.
They're using the chicane at turn 1?
I don't think they are. The maps that I've seen haven't used the chicane. So they're going to do sort of a double apex swish at the bottom of the hill and then into a hairpin. And that could be pretty cool. And then that goes on to a really cool wiggly back straight. And then, I think Portimao looks really cool.
I think it's a question of, is it the tracks or the cars that allows good racing? Because if we say what tracks are good, make good racing for F1, I don't think you'd struggle to get 10. I think.
I think the ones that make good racing for F1 are the ones where you can slipstream and have a lot of DRS, and that's Bahrain at the moment with 3 DRS zones. That's
Spa,
yeah, Silverstone,
Austria,
Canada.
Baku, yeah, because Baku is just bizarre as a concept. But then you look at Formula 2 at the Hungary weekend, and Robert Schwartzman won the feature race from 11th on the grid.
Yeah.
And that's not an easy feat to win from that far back on a circuit we've just talked about, let alone Hungary. I mean, it was the alternate strategy and that kind of thing, but he still had to overtake to get up there. And he made a demon start. These Formula 2 races tend to always be quite chaotic. And people say, it's because they really want to prove themselves. But they've got the capability to go for something to prove themselves in those cars. So that's, I think, the model that they're going for 2022, I think, mechanical downforce.
I think Portimao seems to be pretty similar to Barcelona, or have some similarities to Barcelona, especially before they added the final chicane at Barcelona, the big, long, sweeping kind of turn, last corner. I do hope they use the chicane at the start at turn 1, 2, 3, because I think that would... Yeah, I just think...
I don't think they are.
I think that would be a shame, but...
I think I agree with you about Portimao looking a bit like Catalunya, but I think it's got that touch more to it, because Catalunya's it's got, like you say, the Philly chicane at the end, and it's got the quite tight chicane at the start of the lap, and I think the tight chicane, it doesn't quite work so well in Catalunya.
Yeah, it needs to be wider, I think.
Yeah.
I think the first corner at Portimao with the kind of sort of double apex right-hander, long double apex right-hander, then into the hairpin, I think that would be really cool, because they're coming into that such high speed that then to break there is going to be, you're going to be really on the back of each other going through a really fast right-hander. I think that would be really, I'd rather see a super cool overtake there than a pokey chicane, I think, personally.
Yeah, I think we could all agree that qualifying is going to be quite something at all of these tracks, because they're very high speed. They follow into lots of turns. So, yeah, talking of tracks, let's talk about Silverstone then. 2010, they changed the layout to the arena layout, I think it's called, or that little section anyway. Do we prefer the newer Silverstone layout or the layout from before 2010 when you used to have the old bridge corner?
I like both of them. I mean, bridge is a demon of a corner, isn't it? It's
It'd be
hard
easy flat nowadays, though.
That's true. I think, yeah, it would be easy flat, but then the degrading tyres, then coming back through the long Brooklands there would be quite interesting. It'd be a good place for qualifying, but not really for the race. Whereas with the current, but then the Abbey chicane then would be a good place for the race, but it isn't now because it's now a long right-hander going into turn 3 though, which would be, see, if we're thinking about it as overtaking heavy braking point, then it's fine. It sort of equals itself out. But I do really like the sort of the start of the lap for Silverstone going into the Wellington Straight down to Brooklands. I think that's a really cool bit of track.
Me too.
And then the sort of medium speed Brooklands into Luffield Woodcote. I really like that too. So I think what I've concluded from this ramble is I'm fine with both.
Okay. Adam?
Yeah, I don't really mind. I didn't mind it in the old layout, and I don't mind it now, really. I think they both pretty good races, but crucially, changing it to the new layout meant that they could add a lot more, grandstands and upgrade the paddock wing and all of that, and that allowed it to survive as a circuit and stay on the calendar.
Yeah.
So, I think that's. I think mentioning, but I don't really mind either way.
Cops would be a really cool turn 1 just anyway, and it's a shame it's not anymore. But Abbey is kind of a wannabe Cops anyway, so
it's quite fun to back out though, as they run it now.
Yeah, it's
like coming off the big straight.
I think I prefer the newer layout, and I'm not sure what fans, think of it. Like, let us know if you're listening to this, if you prefer the newer or the layout. Mainly because you can overtake down the Wellington Straight into Brooklands. Is it the left-hander?
Yeah, it's Brooklands.
So, whereas in the past, that wasn't really an option. And also, in the F2 races at least, through turns 3 and 4, the loop section, you can just make a cheeky overtake into the hairpin there as well. You don't see it as much with F1. So I think from a racing point of view, I prefer the newer layout, but that's just me. So
I think last year's race really lended itself to praising this new layout. When you had Verstappen and Leclerc, and then Leclerc on Gasly a couple of times as well, getting involved with themselves through the loop. I think there was a move Leclerc did. He went round the outside of Gasly into, I think it's Farm as turn 3, into Farm. And then that carried on round all the way into Aintree in the loop onto Wellington Straight. And it was such a good move. I can't remember the tyre strat at that particular time, but I think it was something outrageous for Leclerc to do. And then we haven't spoken about Stowe, which is the best corner for overtaking in the world. When you just see you've got Leclerc and Verstappen coming, he's closing, and then Leclerc defends so aggressively, but Verstappen still sticks it in. It's that kind of corner. They can still stick it in, and still go for it and go side by side. I love Silverstone so much.
Yeah,
I get so pumped with every Silverstone race. It's just insane. I was rewatching the 2018 Grand Prix the other week, and I know what happens in that. I know Hamilton gets spun, and I know he finishes in second. But I was still at the end of the race. I was still like, "Oh my god, look at this! What's happening?" Because there's something about it. It's just, I don't know if it's in British or not, but I just love Silverstone.
Yeah, if you haven't seen the last 2 British Grand Prix, I recommend you go and watch the highlights somewhere, because they were quite amazing races. We're going to talk about the Black Lives Matter movement now, because the British Grand Prix, or Silverstone, has said, and they're going to devote some time to the drivers and the movement before the race. Last time in Hungary, you have to say it was pretty disjointed. It looked a bit silly from my thinking when the drivers, Antonio Giovinazzi didn't even have the T-shirt on. Drivers were late. It was just chaotic. So it's good to see that Silverstone is giving this time to the drivers. What are your thoughts on this, I guess.
I mean, it's about time. They should have been doing this from the first week all the way through. And so, yeah, it's good that they're doing it now, but it's kind of a shame that they, Silverstone have had to come out and say, yes, we're going to be doing it, as if that's kind of changing it. And I also just don't think that the comments from a lot of people involved in the sport, from Andretti and Stewart to Grosjean and Eccleston, I just don't think they're helping things at all, really.
Can I just ask, why do you think they're not helping it?
I think there's a problem. There's a real problem in F1 in that there's pretty much no racial diversity, and once Lewis retires, as it stands, there won't be kind of any black face in any prominent position within the sport that I can think of. When the cameras are panning round to drivers and team bosses and anything like that, there's not going to be anyone black in there. And I think to kind of push it under the carpet and say, it's not that bad, I just don't think they really understand the scale of it.
Really?
I think what's been pretty ridiculous is how it's been dealt with in the Styrian Grand Prix and the Hungarian Grand Prix. Because in the first Austrian Grand Prix, yes, there was a sort of position with the end races and banner on the floor, and they gave them a bit of time before the national anthem to take the knee for the majority of the drivers and to stand there as solidarity to say they all supported the end racism stance and they were all anti-racism, as you'd expect. But in Styria, the second Austria week, it was led by Lewis and Vettel to go to the front and to take the knee. And then there was a shot of it on the world feed. And then they cut away to some pre-recorded parachutes and air acrobatics. And it was not on, really, frankly. And I was watching the Sky coverage for that. And Simon Lazenby was trying to not be critical of Formula One. Because, I mean, the Sky coverage is broadcast across the entire paddock. They're all watching that. And Simon Lazenby was just basically trying to keep the story going and saying, look at all these guys taking the knee. This is brilliant. Oh, look, we're looking at some planes, but they're all taking the knee. This is really good. There's some of them not taking the knee, and we really should be pushing this. If Premier League can do it, if cricket can do it, why can't Formula One? And then Formula One is shying away from even getting to the stage of letting the drivers have the personality of it. Hungary was a complete shambles, obviously, when you've got, like you say, Giovinazzi, I think Magnussen as well, both just late, just turned up without their end racism T-shirts on. But no one knew where to stand because they did it in the pit lane, had some screen behind them. But then it was given about, 2 seconds on the world feed, and then they played the Hungarian national anthem. And there's a few drivers sort of hanging around trying to follow Lewis's lead on it. Like, is Lewis taking the knee yet? I don't want to be the first one to do it. And I think there's a few chickens in there about this, frankly, and they should really be taking a bit more of a stance. And yeah, they're all adults. They know kneeling isn't going to change anything, but it's the symbol. There's so much more to it, and by saying, like people like Leclerc saying, they're confused about the politics. Yeah, that's fine. But there's a level of it with kneeling to then say, I don't want people who don't like it to get annoyed at me. It's precisely why you're doing it. You're not there to appease the people who disagree with the situation.
Yeah. And I also, like you say, kneeling and, all going to the front and kneeling for it isn't going to change it. But it's just kind of, if they can't get themselves united and sorted to do that well and in an organised way, that just doesn't bode well at all for actually creating change within the sport. Like Mercedes have said, they want to set up a commission alongside all their black livery stuff and work with F1 in that. But if they can't even sort out a kind of in effect symbolic gesture at the start, then how are they actually going to create meaningful change? It's just not good at the moment.
It's a missed opportunity for me to see all the drivers unite together. A massive opportunity. They had this chance, to do something, and the pictures and the whole world would have seen the drivers take the knee or do something together. But to see that some do it, some not, it doesn't feel right to me. But yeah, that's not going to change, obviously, and drivers who are not taking their knee, that's their choice. But I feel for the sport and for the Black Lives Matter movement, they really should have all taken the knee just for the symbol, like both of you guys say.
Formula One was the first international sport to successfully come back. I mean, I think cricket was the second, and Formula One has had the position of the first global sport to come back to say, this is a global issue. We are going to now make this such a stance that, we're going to end racism. We're all going to come to your country as Formula One, and we're going to take the knee. We're going to say, we're going to end racism here. If you're going to be against this, well, tough, you can't have Formula One. And this is Formula One's position, but Formula One has shied away from that. They're scared of keeping it going. I don't know if there's politics in countries they've got coming up. I don't know what the situation is in Russia. Kvyat's been a bit confusing about why he wouldn't take the knee because of Russia. And I don't know if Formula One as a commission is a bit scared of, we've got a Grand Prix coming up in Russia later on, or maybe some other countries who are a bit tentative with this kind of politics and a bit like, we want to have it. Yeah, we can do it in Austria. That's fine. And we can let it brush under the carpet when it gets to the UK. And then when we go into some other countries, we can move on from it. And then we don't have to jeopardize any talks we're having with the promoters here or the government here. And I think Formula One is showing a lot of cowardice if that's what I'm seeing. And I think that's showing a lot of cowardice. They're not trying to carry on the message through the year, which they should do. It should be Formula One's message, put up or shut up, frankly. And currently they're not putting up. And what they are doing now, if the reports, which I think were BBC reports, are saying that there will be dedicated time to a demonstration, then that's good. About time, frankly. Carry it on through the year, at least.
Yeah. Well, it is Lewis Hamilton who has been leading this movement, and it's just been fantastic to see what he has done over the last few weeks. Some people might not like it, but if you look at the bigger picture, I think what he's doing is quite incredible. In terms of the sporting perspective, Hamilton is leading the championship by 5 points, I think, over Valtteri Bottas. He's won at Silverstone 7 times, which is just incredible. He obviously took his 8th win at Hungary last time out. Can anyone beat Hamilton this weekend and next weekend, I guess?
Bottas, I think, is the only driver who I'd say. I don't think Red Bull will be able to. Yeah. And maybe I'm being a bit harsh, but I don't think Red Bull will.
No, I think you're right.
So I think it's up to Bottas whether he can. I think for him, it's kind of this season will be a lot mentally how he kind of copes. With he's suffered 2 setbacks and lost by decent margins. And been fighting Verstappen a lot more than Hamilton in the last 2 races. So I think it's kind of mentally how he bounces back. He can put good weekends together, and he can, on his good weekends, he can match Hamilton. It's just he doesn't, Hamilton does it every weekend, bar, 1 or 2 over the course of the season. So, yeah, I think, but it's going to be a fight between the Mercedes for the win, I think.
Ready?
Yeah, you can't ignore it, can you? I can't really legitimately sit here and say, oh yeah, McLaren are going to come forward with their upgrades and Carlos Sainz is going to take pole, because I just know it's not going to happen. It's going to be Mercedes. I don't know whether there's going to be a change in mindset because of Hamilton. Normally this weekend is for the fans. It's for the British support that is in its droves normally. Like, Silverstone is a massive circuit and it's packed normally.
Yeah.
Absolutely packed. And that's not going to be there. I don't know. I think this would be the one that's noticed at most, particularly with Lewis Hamilton being the British driver and it being such an emotional event normally for him, that I think it will be interesting to see how that mindset effects, because it could go the complete other way of it's actually quite depressing, this situation. Whereas normally we come here and it's, so say from Hamilton's perspective, normally he comes here and he gets the support of the world, the best support of the year pretty much for him. And this time he's going to come here, and every time he's come here, that's been what's there for him. And this now, it won't be. It could just completely trough. I don't know, motivation-wise.
I don't think it will, to be honest. I don't think it'll make a difference if there's fans there or not. But I think
it'll completely change the mindset of the weekend for Hamilton, but I wouldn't say he wouldn't win.
Okay. Yeah.
I think it will just. I think it will just make it any other weekend for him. It won't kind of feel special in the same way that it normally does, but equally, it's not gonna. I don't think it's going to negatively affect him. It'll just feel a bit more like racing, Austria or Hungary or wherever. It's just another race to turn up and win at and move on, really.
I think the next two weekends are very, very important for Bottas, because traditionally at Silverstone, and then got Silverstone again, he hasn't gone well at Silverstone and Barcelona. So if he can beat Hamilton at one or even two of those race weekends, it's going to be quite important, because if Hamilton wins the next three races, he's going to have over a 25-point lead, 26-point lead, and then it's going to look like Bottas will have a slim hopes of the championship. So I think it's an important weekend.
Did he get?
Well,
Bottas got pole last year in Catalonia and in Silverstone.
That's what I was about to ask.
He would have won in Silverstone last year if not for a virtual safety car when Antonio Giovinazzi's rear damper. He did. He would have won.
Hamilton would have had the pace.
No, because, I don't know, because Bottas had got such an undercut. It was about 10 laps afterwards that Hamilton then pit. I mean, Hamilton would have had some pace, but Bottas would have had such an undercut. It would have been such a climb for Hamilton to do. Yeah, he would have had probably the pace to close, but he couldn't get past Bottas earlier in the race. And I think it would have been a mega scrap towards the end of the race. Yeah, but I think there would have been a strong argument for Bottas to win that race without Alfa Romeo's, whatever it was, rear suspension failing or something.
I was watching the cricket.
Yeah, it was the Cricket World Cup, Wimbledon, British Grand Prix.
It was an insane
Sunday,
wasn't
day.
It was an insane
day.
Yeah, back from Silverstone listening to the cricket on the radio. The weirdest, and cricket on the radio is weird. Tennis on the radio is strange. Anyway, carry on.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue with you about a race from last year, because that will just take up too much time. So we'll just have to disagree with that one. The podium then, Red Bull versus Racing Point for the third step of the podium. Is that what we think, or do we think Red Bull will be ahead of Racing Point, or Racing Point ahead of Red Bull?
I think McLaren might be in there. So Adam, you go.
I think there's probably a good chance for Racing Point. They've got the kind of Mercedes setup, but then they seem to go better against Red Bull last week in Hungary. So it's a bit of a weird one. I'm not really sure which type of track is better for them. But yeah, I think they've got a decent chance, but it's Verstappen's the big problem for them, is that he's just so good. And I think these two races or three races, including Barcelona, will kind of go a long way to kind of telling us who is better, who is the kind of second team to Mercedes. But yeah, I think they definitely got a chance. But and also, can they get the race together? Kind of, can they put together a clean race and get it done? Because Hungary was the first time they'd done that, or got a clean race weekend together. So if they can do that, then it'll be a very interesting battle to watch. But, I think Red Bull and Verstappen especially will definitely be, kind of up there as well.
So yeah, I threw in McLaren there, and quickly I'll just say why. I think Silverstone as a track comparatively to Hungary and Austria is closer to Austria.
Yeah.
And that's where McLaren has been angling their car for the past few years, is kind of the high-speed tracks. I think Racing Point's performance in Hungary does lend itself to a bit of 2019 Mercedes. It was a bit more of a draggy car and a bit more of a downforce heavy car. And I think McLaren of the midfield cars seems to be a bit more of a slippery car for this kind of circuit, and I think McLaren could go very well here. And I think, based on the previous form of Racing Point and Red Bull and McLaren all getting podiums, apart from Racing Point being in the fight for podiums even, I think McLaren will be legitimately in a fight for third place this weekend.
Wow, that's some statement. Because it's interesting, isn't it? Because McLaren were struggling to get points in Hungary, and yet new track, new location,
upgrade,
everything, upgrades as well. So
which could fail.
It could elevate them to third, though, as you say. Adam, you wanted to say?
I'd forgotten about the upgrade, so I don't know whether I want to kind of retract that now. But I was thinking, at Austria, I think they got the third place at the first Grand Prix because of the safety car and the kind of manicness at the end, more than that they were in the top three fantastic teams.
Started the race third in both of them, both Austrias.
So I don't know. I think Norris is definitely in form. He's one of the most informed drivers on the grid, I'd say. And, he'll be able to take the fight if they've got the car. I'm not so sure, not so confident about their chances of mixing it up right at the top. But I'd love it if they could get a podium at their home Grand Prix. That'd be brilliant.
Right, let's talk about some predictions then. Who do we think is going to have pole position, the win this weekend?
Hamilton, both.
Hamilton, both. Freddie?
I can't really see myself not predicting Hamilton for any of these.
I just don't believe Bottas can win.
Yeah. So,
Hamilton. I think he can get. Yes, I think he can, but I
don't think he will.
It's the gut, isn't it? The gut says Hamilton.
I'm going to say Bottas both, because something will happen to Hamilton, and I don't know what, but something will happen.
Meteor will come in and hit his front wing.
Maybe. It could happen. You never know with the amount of meteorites flying around Earth nowadays. Who do we think will be on the third step of the podium? Racing Point, Red Bull, or McLaren?
Carlos Sainz Jr.
Carlos Sainz. Adam?
I feel like Sainz is very out there. Because if McLaren's kind of, I think, more out there, and then if you're going to pick one McLaren, I'd go Norris. But it's Freddie gets it right, he'll be laughing.
I will get it right.
Verstappen, I'm going to be boring.
You're so boring.
I'm going to go Perez. I think Perez, because he was ill in Hungary, and I think he can bounce back. And especially if Vettel might be joining the team next year, Perez needs to show something. So, I'm going to go Perez.
I might go Stroll just to be exciting, mix it up a bit.
It's a busy podium.
Yeah.
Imagine if all three of those drivers ended up on the same podium.
Wow.
What?
That would be quite incredible. Yeah. Let's have another random prediction. Who do we think will come out on top in the Ferrari, Renault, and I'm not missing anyone? Ferrari and Renault, because I think they could be quite close this weekend.
That's a good shout.
Because Silverstone, 80%
Renault
is full throttle now. So, did you say Renault there, Adam?
Yeah, Renault, because Ricciardo's been doing pretty well. He seems to be extracting a decent amount from it. So, and Leclerc's done nothing in the last two races. So,
yeah. Freddie?
Ferrari.
Reason?
Because on any kind of measurement, Ferrari have always been ahead.
Okay.
Such as Austria won most of the qualifying. I can't remember the qualifying for Styria, to be fair. I don't know where Ricciardo was. Hungary. Ferrari were just faster.
Interesting.
I think based on the me thinking the car is faster, I'm going to go with that.
I feel like with Ocon there, I'm slightly less confident about that now. I'm thinking, Ricciardo. Now I'm thinking, Ocon. But I'll stick with it.
I think the Renault is being flattered by Ricciardo. I don't think it's a very good car at all this year.
Really?
It's not controversial, that.
I'm not. I think Ferrari, though, especially with Silverstone being such a power-heavy track, they could be in big trouble again. Well, even more trouble, I should say. And the same goes for Haas and Alfa Romeo, because they've got the Ferrari donkey in the back, obviously. So I think...
At least that's Ferrari you can beat.
Yeah, I think Ferrari could have some big problems this year. This weekend. Sorry. We're gonna do my quiz now. Yeah, the quiz is back after a 2-week break. I think we haven't done a quiz for a few episodes. It's a Silverstone edition, of course. This time it's a slightly different format. It's not just straight questions. To try and explain it, but not confuse our amazing audience. Basically, I'm gonna say something to Adam and Freddie, and they're gonna take turns with answering. You'll see how it works. Yes, yeah, that. So I've got 2 categories. The first category is corner names or sections of the Silverstone circuit. Now I think I've got 13 names of the straights or sections or turns at Silverstone. So you're just going to have to... So yeah, one by one, you will say a name of a thing each. And yeah, the loser is whoever can't think of one or you run out of time or whatever. Yeah.
Okay.
Confusing, but you'll see how it works.
Are we allowed to note down what's been said already?
No.
Okay.
That's a good point, yeah.
And you're obviously not allowed to search the Silverstone layout because that would be cheating and that would ruin the whole quiz. But yeah, so Adam, can you give me a name of any part of Silverstone?
Hanger Strait.
Ready?
Stowe.
Wellington Strait.
Abbey.
Cops.
Maggots.
Beckett.
Chapel.
Yes.
And now it gets difficult for me anyway. Club.
Yes.
Vale.
Does the wing count?
No.
I was ready to say pit entry, to be fair.
No, I'll concede on that.
Conceding?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that was overcooking them. I thought I would admit. Freddie, can you how many more sections or turns can you name for the Silverstone circuit?
Farm, The Loop, Aintree, Brooklands, Luffield, Woodcote. Yeah. International Pit Straight, National
I think
Pit
you've named
Straight.
everything now. Wow.
Freddie has been to Silverstone, in my defence, a lot of times.
Yeah, he has been to... Yeah, he has been to many races and he's been to Silverstone quite a few times. So
yes,
that might have been a bit unfair. So sorry about that, Adam. So Freddie gets the point for that one.
I'll give you the fiver later, Nigel.
It was a tenner, wasn't it? The next
Not going
category...
down this route.
The next category is British winners of the British Grand Prix.
Oh, that's limited.
I don't know how... I think there are 11, if I've counted that right, or 12.
Heck.
So there's quite a lot. So, Adam, do you want to start?
Hamilton.
Damon Hill.
Yes.
Jim Clark.
Johnny Herbert.
Yes. Yes, in
Nigel
1995.
Mansell.
Yeah.
Yes.
John Watson.
Yes, that's a good one.
I'm trying to remember if Button won there, but I don't feel like confident enough to go for it. Jackie Stewart.
Yes, he's won there twice.
He did in the Matra. Oh, DC. Coulthard.
Yes, he's won there twice as well.
99 and
That's a
1000.
good chance.
Oh.
No, I was thinking. I don't want to say the drivers I'm thinking of in case they're right, and then go to them.
Nah.
30s.
John Surtees, let me... no, John Surtees did not win the British Grand Prix, unfortunately. So, yeah, Freddie
It's
wins that one. Button has never had
Button never got a podium.
at the British Grand Prix.
right.
Yeah, never mind a win. He always had bad luck. I remember one year, 2013, his wheel came off after his pit stop. He's always had bad luck there.
2014, he was about half a tenth off Ricciardo for third at the end of the race. And that was quite sad because if he had started to push a few laps earlier, he would have done it. But Red Bull just basically went so long on a set of medium tyres or whatever it was. They went about 35 laps on them, which is just like, that's one of Ricciardo's best drives at Silverstone, definitely, to do that. Well, one of Ricciardo's best drives of that year to do that with those tyres was insane. Because that was like ridiculous. Mercedes did a
race. Wait, on that list, I was just thinking, so who were the others? Would Hawthorne and Graham Hill, are they on there?
Graham Hill's not.
Graham Hill,
Is he not?
No, he never won Silverstone.
No.
That was a big thing about Damon Hill winning it, because Damon Hill won the British Grand Prix, but he never won Monaco, whereas Graham Hill won Monaco 5 times. That was
who were the ones that we missed out?
So,
Freddie, do you want to have a go?
I think you're right with Hawthorne. Did Brooks win and Moss?
Totally Brooks did. Sterling Moss did, yes.
How many is that then? We're on about 9, I think.
I think you've got 2 more you haven't said.
Did we say Herbert?
Yeah, I think you did.
Yeah. Hunt did. He won at Brands.
James Hunt, yeah.
Oh, I thought him, and then I thought no, because there was...
Yeah, it was technically illegal, but they gave it to him in the end, I think.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of other drivers. Oh my god.
It's from the 50s, I think. I'm not sure what year he won. But...
Who's the one that isn't Brooks? Is it Peter?
Peter Collins.
Yeah, Peter. That's the one.
Yes.
Yeah. So those are the British drivers that have won the British Grand Prix. Those are the only 2 categories I had. So I think Freddie wins this week. So we
could do a really long one, like just race winners.
That will take up whole episode.
Well, only there are like 70 race winners, and then we're into like, I don't know, when we get to Pasta Maldonado.
Yeah, so Freddie has won 2 quizzes. Me and Adam have won just 1. So then, still all to play for.
You did a double or quits on my quiz, to be fair. You did a double or quits. So technically, he's won 2.
I forgot about that one. Yeah.
Which is a bit mean of me on myself.
Yeah, I don't think I'll claim that, to be honest.
Yeah. Anyway, let's finish off. Let's finish off with some final thoughts on Silverstone then. So we talked about the battle at the front. What is it you're looking forward to most this weekend, Freddie?
Some cool overtakes. It's a cool track. It's the overtakes there are heart in mouth, but they still happen. I always kind of like last year's is a prime example of like the Mercedes battle with Bottas and Hamilton going from all the way from the Wellington Straight all the way around to Bottas coming back at Hamilton into Copse and so on. And then you've also got obviously Verstappen and Leclerc throughout the whole race. And then you go back a few years, Vettel and Alonso in 2014 is one of my favourite battles in all time in Formula One, because they're both being so, they both respect each other so much and both hate each other at that point of their careers so much. I've always kind of thought Alonso just despises Vettel as a competitor, and they're just both giving each other just the right amount of room, go just to the line of the fight, and it's such a good fight. I think if you get a chance, watch the 2014 British Grand Prix Alonso-Vettel duel. It's so good. I'm just looking forward to see that. Yeah, 2014 is an example of a really good race when Mercedes were a second clear of the pack.
Yeah.
So yeah, it can be done.
What are you going to miss the most? Is there kind of one thing that sticks out that you will miss from not being there?
Being there. I mean, Silverstone's it's got a special place to the majority of British fans. just because it's the British Grand Prix, obviously. But the track is just such a brilliant track. The facilities there are the best in the world for fans. And the toilets are so good. The fan experience there is fantastic, and it's just going to be so weird watching it on TV, frankly.
Yeah, if anyone ever goes to Silverstone, I recommend standing at the Maggotts Beckett when the cars enter there, because you can get very close to the track.
They look amazing.
And yeah, I was at the World Endurance Championship a few years ago, and the LMP1 Toyota cars were just exceptional. The speed they took. So I can only imagine what the F1 cars are like there. Adam, any final thought? Yes, Freddie.
I saw some Formula Ford there a couple of years ago, and that was slightly disappointing in comparison to the F1.
Adam.
Yeah, I think Williams getting their first point, probably not, but it's another chance for them.
I think this will be Williams' hardest weekend so far.
Yeah, I agree, but maybe this will be the one. If Bottas does have a good weekend, that will be interesting to see him, because I guess in Austrian Grand Prix we had Hamilton on the back of Bottas for a bit, but if we can have a full race of those going at it, that'd be great. And yeah, just the other stuff we covered, the battle for third, seeing where Racing Point stack up against Red Bull. I think they're the things that stick out.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm kind of ignoring the Mercedes battle now, especially if one of them is up and clear ahead of the other teammate. I'm just looking at who's going to be third, because I do think Red Bull and Racing Point are going to have a really big scrap this weekend. McLaren might be in there as well if the upgrades work. So yeah, it's not all about the front battle. Of course, everyone loves a championship fight, but I think, as Freddie mentioned, 2014. Even 2016, in a way, we had some great scraps in the midfield behind the two Mercedes. So
I think,
that's Adam.
I think it is kind of good looking at the midfield fight. I think it's kind of, for a lot of casual fans, who aren't as kind of dialed into the midfield, it will be quite a boring season, because a lot of people who just kind of turn on, watch, the race, and then, don't kind of pick up any, news or whatever, or kind of follow it outside of the race day, then there's kind of not the same sense of, there's a great midfield, we'll Racing Point beat them, whatever, Renault go, that's a great point for AlphaTauri. So I think it is, to people who follow it like that, it will be a disappointing kind of season for that, and I think they'll lose something from that.
But by the same coin, if you're watching the midfield as a casual fan, you'll still see a demon overtaking a cracking bit of racing in the midfield, and you'll be able to say, "Oh yeah, that's good racing." If you're a casual fan to the point of where you will look at the results from qualifying or something, or look at whoever's won the last race and go, "Well, there's not a fight here, I'm not going to turn on," then yeah, it's going to completely ruin the season for you. But if it's a casual fan of, it's on, I'll watch it, that's cool racing, then there's still that side to it. There's still the opportunity for racing in the midfield. But yeah, you're completely right. The top honours is signed, sealed, delivered before the actual weekend.
It's a bit like the Premier League when Liverpool won the title, or everyone knew they were going to win the title. The Champions League battle, or the relegation battle, the casual fans might not be as interested, maybe. So I see it as a bit like that. But
the Championship,
there is a lot more West Ham fans than AlphaTauri fans.
Yeah, definitely.
If it was still Minardi, though.
Yeah, I think that's all we've got time for, unless I've missed anything.
No.
Yeah. So
it's nothing.
Yeah, just to note that I believe both practice sessions on Friday are 1 hour later than they usually are for whatever reason. But the race and qualifying is still both at 2:00 and 2:10 on Saturday and Sunday. And it's not just on Sky this weekend, it's on Channel 4. So everyone can watch it as long as you have a TV, which I'm sure most people will. So
they're 1 hour later because then they're on the same clock as they would be if they're in Europe time. So say a practice session starts at 11 in Europe, it starts at 10 o'clock on TV in the UK. So it starts at 11 o'clock in the UK, as it would, because that's where the F1 clock is.
Right.
Right. So why's the racing qualifying not on the not 1 hour later?
Because the racing qualifying are bizarre.
Yeah.
They don't know what they're doing with races. That's why they put them 10 minutes later. Someone thought a couple of years ago it'd be great to move them all an hour and 10 minutes later. So they did. And so that would have, if they hadn't done that, then Hungary last week would have been fantastic.
Yeah.
I think I quite like that because like a lot of sport really, but F1, you know, you've got like, you start, if, you know, a match kicks off at 3, you start watching like 10 minutes before or something like that, just at the end of the build-up maybe. So I don't know, I think maybe it kind of works a bit for that.
Oh, it completely works from the TV perspective, and that's fair enough. They've done that.
Yeah.
And Chet will be doing a review podcast after the race, hopefully getting it up Sunday night. And we got a lot of good views and feedback on our Hungary review. So thank you very much all for that. And yeah, hopefully tune into the British Grand Prix one as well.
Yeah, you can find us on Wing It F1 for Twitter. I'm Fred Coates 1999 on my Twitter.
I'm at Nigel C. Journo.
And I'm at Adam Dickinson 01.
Ooh. We're also on Spotify, iTunes, and our podcast provider website, Acast. When that's working, it's been down for the recent day, so that's fun. But when that's working, that's where you can find us and listen to us on the go, listen to us in your ears, do what you want. Just, play it on loop.
Please. Yes.
Keep hitting refresh. Thank you.
We'll be back with another podcast on Sunday or Monday. So for now, we'll see you then.
Bye.
Bye-bye.